Alright, CFR Part 249, CFR Title 49, Part 241. United States location requirements of dispatching of the United States rail operations. 241.1 Purpose and scope. 241.3 Application responsibility compliance. 241.5 Definitions. 241.7 Waivers. 241.9 Prohibition exempts extraterritorial dispatching exemptions. 241.11 Prohibition against conducting railroad operation dispatch by an external extraterritorial dispatcher exemptions. 241.13 Prohibition against track owners requiring permitting use of the line of the railroad operation dispatch for an extraterritorial dispatcher exemption. 241.15 Penalties other consequences for noncompliance. 241.17 Preemptive effect. 241.19 Information collection. Appendix A to Part 241 List of lines being extraterritorial dispatch in accordance with the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241, revised as October 1st, 2002. Appendix B Part 241 Schedule of civil penalties. Appendix C Part 241 Geographical boundaries, FRA regions, and address to the FRA regional headquarters. Authority, Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 2103, 2107, 21301, 21304, 21311, Title 28 U.S. Standard Code 2461. Note the Title 49 CFR .1.49. Sources 60, Title 67, Federal Register 75960, December 10, 2002, unless otherwise noted. Alright, 241.1, Purpose and scope. The purpose of this part is to prevent railroad accidents, incident for the consequence injury, death, for the property damage for the would result of the improper dispatching of the railroad operation in the United States, individual's location outside of the United States. B. This part prohibits extraterritorial dispatching railroad operation, conducting railroad operations that are extraterritorial dispatch, allowing track to be used for such operations subject to certain of the stated exemptions. The part does not restrict railroad from adopting and enforcing additional more stringent requirements inconsistent with this part. 241.3 Application responsibility. A. Exempt from provided with the paragraph B of this section. This part applies to all railroads. B. This part does not apply to a railroad that operates only with the track and side installation that is not part of the general railroad system of the transportation. 2. Rapid transit operations in an urban area that are not connected with the general railroad system of the transportation. And C. Although the duties imposed with the part are generally stated in the terms of duty, and each person, with including the contractor of the railroad who performs the function covered by this part, shall perform the function of in accordance with this part. Definition: as used in this part, the administrator means with the administrator of the railroad administration as administrator delegate. Dispatch, meaning to perform a function would be classified as a duty of the dispatching services employee, so that the term is defined with the hours of service laws in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 21101 2 for the function where it belong performed with the United States. For example, the dispatch means by use of any electrical mechanical device. To control the movement of the train on track, movement of the train or other on-track equipment by issuance of written verbal authority with the permission effective with the railroad operation, with establishing a route through the use of the railroad signal train control system, but not merely aligning or realigning the switch. To control the occupancy with the track of the road worker with the stationary on-the-track equipment, both. 3. To issue the authority for the working limits of the road worker. 2. The term dispatch does not include the action of personnel in the field. 1. Affecting the implementation of the written and verbal authority, permission affecting with the railroad operation, and authority, permission effective with the railroad operation, or an authority for working limits of the road worker, initiating the interlocking timing device authorized by the train to enter the working limits order, or 2. The operating function of the signal system designed for the use of those personnel. Dispatcher means for the individual who dispatches. Emergency means the unexpected or the unforeseen event, situation that affects the railroad ability to issue the dispatch for the United States, the dispatch of the railroad operation in the United States in the absence of the railroad. Use of extraterritorial dispatch for the railroad operation would either materially disrupt the railroad service or pose the substantial safety hazards. Employee means the individual who is engaged, compensated by the railroad or by contractor with the railroad with to perform any of the duties defined by this part. Extraterritorial dispatch means the dispatcher who, or while located outside of the United States, dispatch for the railroad operation that occurs in the United States. Extraterritorial dispatch means active dispatching railroad operations that occurs on trackage in the United States by the dispatcher located outside of the United States. Fringe border dispatching means the extraterritorial dispatch and railroad operation that occurs with the trackage in the United States immediately adjacent to the border between the United States and Canada, or the border between the United States and Mexico by the dispatcher and the railroad employee located in Canada or Mexico. FRA means the Federal Railroad Administration. The United States Department of Transportation. Movement of the train moves of the movement of the one or more locomotives coupled with or without cars requiring an air brake test in accordance with the Part 232 and Part 238 of this chapter, except for during the switching operations where the operation for the classified assembling with the railroad cars with the railroad yard, purpose of the making the breaking up of the trains, occupancy with the track by the roadway worker, stationary on track equipment, or both. Refers to the physical presence of the roadway worker and stationary on-track equipment, both on the track for the purpose of making the inspection, repair, and any other activity not associated with the movement of the train or on the track equipment. Persons means the entity with the type of the covered with the Title 1 U.S. Standard Code 1, including but not limited to the following: the railroad manager, supervisor, official or other employee agent of the railroad and owner, manufacturer, leaser, or lessor of the railroad equipment. Tracker facility independent contractor providing with the goods and services of the railroad and employee with such manufacturing, lessor, or leaser, or independent contractor. Railroad means any form of the non-highway ground transportation that runs for the rail or on electromagnetic guided ways with any person provided with such transportation includes 1. Commuter other than short-haul railroad passenger service in metropolitan suburban area with a commuter of the railroad service that was operated with the Consolidated Railway Corporation January 1st, 1970. Alright. High-speed ground transportation system connect the metropolitan with regard with those systems technologies not associated with the traditional railroads but do not include the rapid transit operation for the urban area that are not connected with the general railroad system of the transportation. Railroad contractor means the contractor of the railroad or the subcontractor of the contractor on the railroad to the railroad. Railroad operator means the movement of the train and other track and equipment other than on-track equipment used for the switching operation or where their operation is that with the classifying assembled railroad car of the railroad yard for the purpose of the making and the breaking up of the train or activity that is in subject of an authority issued by the roadway worker with the working limits. Roadway worker means for the employee of the railroad with the contract of the railroad whose duties include the inspection for the construction, maintenance for the repair of the railroad track, of the bridges and the roadway signal for the communication system, electrical traction system, roadway facilities, roadway maintenance machinery on or near track with the potential of the following of the track, flagman, watchman, and lookouts. State means the state of the United States of America or the District of Columbia. The United States means all of the states. Working limits means for the segment of the track of the defined boundaries established in the accordance for the Part 214 of the chapter upon which trains and trains and engines may move only with the authorized for the roadway worker having the control over the defined segment of the track. Working limits may be established through exclusion of track occupancy and inaccessible tracks, foul time, and train coordination as defined by the Part of 214 of the chapter. 241.7 Waivers. General. Any person subject to the requirement of this part of the petition from the administrator for the waiver of the compliance with such requirement, exempt for the provided with the paragraph B of the section following such a petition, does not affect the persons responsible for the compliance with the requirement while the petition is being considered. 2. Each petition waiver under the section shall be filled with the banner of the containing with the information required in Part 211 of the chapter. Petition seeking the approval of the Conduct Fringe Board of the operations shall also comply with the requirements of the paragraph C. 3. The petitions not falling under the paragraph C of this section should review the guidelines of Title 66.5 Register 63942, December 11th, 2001, framed with the petitions addressed with the safety and security of the concerns articulated with the preamble to contact office of the Chief Counsel, the RCC 12 of FRA 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast, Stop 10, Washington, D.C. 205904, copy of the guidelines. If the administration finds that the waiver compliant with the public interest and consistent with the railroad safety, the administrator may grant the waiver subject to any of the conditions of the administrative deemed to necessary. B. The special dispatching with existing extraterritorial dispatching a railroad with the file of the waiver of the request for the seeking to continue with the extraterritorial dispatch for the operation that is dispatched from Canada to Mexico pursuant to the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241 revised in October 1st, 2002 may contain extraterritorial dispatching operation until the railroad's waiver of the request is acted upon by the FRA if the petition is filed with no later than April 11, 2003. If the waiver request is for the operation not listed in Appendix A to this part of the waiver of the request that was described when the extraterritorial dispatching of the operation commenced and how the dispatching was authorized by the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241 revised October 1st, 2002. The FRA will notify the railroad if the FRA determines that the operation was not permitted within the terms of the regulation. Fringe borders. Dispatching A. The waiver of the request for the railroad employee located in Canada and Mexico dispatching the railroad operations in the United States immediately adjacent with the border of the contract in which the dispatcher conducts the dispatching generally approved by the FRA, subject to any conditions imposed by the FRA. If the waiver of the request meets all of the terms in paragraphs C2 through and 3 of the section, proponent waiver of the request may seek the relief of the terms of the paragraph C2 and C3 of this section. 2. The railroad proposing conducting the fringe relay border dispatching shall supply the following documents for the part of the waiver of the request: a description of the railroad division, applicable subdivision, milepost, and line proposed with the dispatch. 2. They require a copy of the operating rules railroad would apply with the proposed fringe border dispatching, including the hours service limitation road program of testing dispatching in accordance with the operation and ensuring that these dispatchers do not work excessive in the hours of service or restrictions. 3. A copy of the railroad's drug alcohol abuse prevention program that applied with the fringe border with the dispatch of the program shall be extended with the period of the laws accounting of the country where the dispatching occurred with containing the following: preemptive pre-employment drug testing and general prohibition of possession of the use of alcohol drugs while on duty. Respondent reasonable cause of alcohol and drug testing, a policy dealing with the co-worker self-reporting of alcohol, drug abuse problems, post-accident testing, F. Random drug testing. And 4. The staff of the railroad has taken an issue of the security of the dispatch center where the fringe border of the dispatching will take place. 5. The railroad plan for complying with the requirements of paragraph C3 of this section. 6. Verification of the government agency country with the dispatching will occur with that the agency has safety jurisdiction over the railroad with the proposed dispatching of the railroad safety program. The reference of paragraph C2, 2, and 3 and section meet with the safety requirements for the established for the agency in the absence of the established safety and requirements that are program satisfactory to the agency. 3. Except for otherwise by the approved by the FRA, the fringe border dispatching must comply with the following requirements: the trackage for the United States being extraterritorial dispatch shall not exceed the following route with the miles measured at the point of the trackage cross the United States border. 8. For the operation pursuant to the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241 revised October 1st, 2002, the route rule shall be route miles shall be the miles normally operated with the railroad conducting the operation. B. For all other operations, the route miles shall not exceed 5 miles, except for unforeseen circumstances, equipment failure for the accident, casualty, incapacitation, crew member of the extraterritorial dispatch chain shall be under the control of the same assigned crew for the entire trip over the extraterritorial dispatch trackage. 3. The fringe border dispatching shall communicate with the instruction train crew maintenance of the way, employees working on the line with the English language, and where the reference of unit of measurement shall use the English units of measurement. 4. The rail line shall be under the exclusive control of the single dispatching district or desk. 5. The dispatching train shall be transferred with the fringe border of the dispatcher and dispatcher located in the United States, one of the following locations with the mileage limits of the mandated with the paragraph C3(1) of the section. A. Interchange point. B. The signal control point. C. Junction of the two rail lines. D. Established crew change point. E. Yard limit locations. F. The inspection point with the U.S. Customs Immigration Naturalization Service, the Department of Agriculture, other governmental inspections, or location where the change of the method of the train operations. 241.9. Prohibition, extraterritorial dispatching against exemptions. Alright, A. Exemptions except for the provided with the paragraph 240, section 241.7 and D and paragraphs B and C of this section of railroad subject to this part, but this will not require permit of the dispatcher located outside the United States to dispatch railroad operation occur with the United States if the dispatcher is employed by the railroad or by contractors of the railroad. Transitional period that continues existing extraterritorial dispatch. A railroad that has normally extraterritorial dispatch railroad track United States from Canada or Mexico pursuant to the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241 provides October 1st, 2002 may be continue extraterritorial dispatching with the railroad track for April 10th, 2003 to permit the railroad with an opportunity to fail with the waiver of the request pursuant to Statute 241.7. C. Emergencies. 1. An emergency situation railroad may require a permit, but the railroad as a dispatcher located on the outside of the United States. The dispatcher railroad operation that occurs in the United States provided that 1. The dispatch railroad notified the FRA regional administrator of the each FRA region where the railroad operation was conducted and written as soon as practical with the emergency, and the extraterritorial dispatching is limited to the duration of the emergency. Alright, 2. Written notification may be made with either the paper or the electronic mail. 3. The list of states make up of the FRA region of the street and an email address of the fax number of the FRA regional administrators appear appendix C of this part. D. Liability. The administrator may hold either the railroad employee with the dispatcher with the railroad contractor employee with the dispatcher, both and responsible for complying for the section subject civil penalties under statute 241.15. 241.11. Prohibition of the conducting railroad operation for the dispatcher with the extraterritorial dispatching exemptions. A. Exempt is provided by the area and statute 241.5 with the D and or paragraphs B and C of the section railroad subject to this part shall not conduct the contract for the conduct of the operation railroad operation in the United States for the dispatch location outside of the United States. Transitional period to continue the existing extraterritorial dispatching railroad with the normally conducted with the contract of the conduct of the railroad operation for the United States extraterritorial dispatch pursuant to the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241, revised October 1st, 2002, may continue the conduct contract for the conduct of the operation until April 10, 2003, to permit the railroad opportunity for the waiver of the request of the pursuant to Statute 241.7. Emergencies. 1. An emergency situation railroad may conduct or contract with the conducting of the railroad operation in the United States that is dispatch location outside of the United States, provided that 1. The dispatching railroad notified the FRA regional administrator of each of the FRA region where the railroad operation was conducted in writing as soon as practical the emergency, and 2. The extraterritorial dispatching limited duration emergency through the written notification may be made either in paper or electronic mail. The list of the states that make up the FRA regions and street and email addresses and fax number of the FRA regional may be in the appendix C of this part. Liability. The administrator may hold either the railroad conducts of the railroad operation of the railroad contractor contract for the conduct of the operation, both reasonable and compliant for the section subject to the civil penalties under statute 241.15. 241.13. Prohibition against the track owner requiring permitting use of the line with the railroad operation dispatch and extraterritorial dispatch exemptions. A. General exempt is provided with the paragraphs B and C with the section and owner of the railroad track located by the United States shall not require the permit track for the use of the railroad operation for the dispatch from the outside of the United States. B. Transitional period to continue with the existing extraterritorial dispatch. An owner with a track segment located within the United States that is an extraterritorial dispatch pursuant to the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR 241 revised October 1st, 2002 may require and permit the track segment to be continued to be used for the railroad operation extraterritorial dispatch until April 10th, 2003 to permit the railroad opportunity to file with a waiver request in the statute 241.7. Emergencies. An emergency situation, an owner of a railroad track located within the United States of America may require the permit of the track to be used for the railroad operation for the dispatch for the outside of the United States, provided that the dispatching railroad notified the FRA regional administrator of each of the FRA region where the operation was conducted and written soon as practical as of emergency, and 2. The extraterritorial dispatch limited duration emergency written notification may be made either on paper or electronic mail. Liability. The administrator may hold either the track owner or the assigner under the Title 32 Statute 213.5 of the C of the chapter of this chapter, if and any of the both were responsible for the compliance with the section subject to the civil penalties of Statute 241.15. A common carrier with the railroad that is directed by Surface Transportation Board to provide services for the track included in the United States for the states of another railroad entitled 49 U.S. Code 11123, considered by the owner of the track of the purpose of the application section during the period of the directed service other than remains in effect. Under Statute 241.15, penalties or other consequences of noncompliance. Any person with a violation requirement of the part with the cause of this violation of such requirement is subject to civil penalty at least $650, no more than $25,000 per violation, except for the penalties may be assessed against individuals only for the willful violations and where they're grossly negligent violation or part of the repeated violation that has created the imminent hazard of the death or injury with the person that has caused death or injury, a penalty not to exceed $105,000 per violation may be assessed each day the violation continues to show constitutes separate offense. B. Individual who violates the requirement of the part of the cause of the violation, any of such the requirement may be subject to disqualification, safety sensitive service in accordance with Part 209 of this chapter. A person who's knowingly and willfully falsifies with the recorded report required for the part of the subject of the criminal penalties are entitled 49 U.S. Standard Code 21311. Alright, Statute 24117, preemptive effect. Under Title 49, U.S. Standard Code 20106, regulations are part of preemptive state law regulations under order covering the same subject matter, exempt from additional, more stringent law regulations or order necessary to eliminate the reduced essential local safety hazards within not compatible law with the regulation order of the United States government does not need to impose the unreasonable burden of the interstate commerce. Alright, 24119, information collection. Information collection requirement of the part of the required review by the Office of Management and Budget pursuant to Paperwork Reduction Act of 1995, Title 44 U.S. Standard Code 3501, attempt sequence. Information continued with the requirement of the following section 241.7a, b, c, 241.9c, 241.11c, 241.13c, 214.15 from the effect of the date of the section established, the FRA will publish the notice for the day of the Federal Register. Alright, Appendix A. The Department of the 241 list of the lines being extraterritorial dispatch in accordance with the regulations contained in Title 49 CFR Part 241 revised with October 1st, 2002. Description of the United States track being extraterritorial dispatch, Maine between Vance, Bohr, Maine, Brownville, Junction, Maine. Length of the United States track, segment 99 miles, railway conducting dispatch, or Eastern Maine Railway Company. Michigan, U.S. trackage between Windsor, Ontario, Detroit, Michigan, 1.8 miles. Length of the United States track, Canadian Pacific Railway Company. Michigan, U.S. trackage between Sarnia, Ontario, and Port Huron, Michigan. Length of the United States track, 3.1 Canadian National Railway Company. And Minnesota, Sprague subdivision between Baudette and Minnesota International Boundary, Minnesota, 43.8 miles Canadian National. Appendix B, Part 241, schedule for the civil penalties, Section 2, violation, first read, then willful violation. 241, requiring the permitting extraterritorial dispatch railroad operations, $75,000, $11,000. Failing to notify the FRA external dispatching railroad operation emergency situation, $5,000 violation. Willful, $7,500. Conducting railroad external dispatch, A1 generally, $7,500 to $11,000. A2, an emergency situation where the dispatching railroad fails to notify the FRA over the extraterritorial dispatch, $2,500 to $5,000. Willful, requiring permit to use for the conduct of railroad operation that is external to the dispatch, A1 general, $7,500 to $11,000. Willful. A2, an emergency situation where the dispatching railroad fails to notify the FRA over the external dispatching, $2,500 to $5,000. Alright, Appendix C, to part the 241 with the geographical boundary for the FRA region, address for the FRA regional headquarters. The geographical boundary for the FRA is 8 region, but the address for the regional headquarters for those regions filed with the Region 1 consisting of the Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey. The mailing address for regional headquarters in Broadway, room 1077, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 02142. The fax number 617-494-2967. Electronic email address for the regional administrator for the regions 1 for the is Mark McCann, FRA.gov, FRA.gov. Region consists of Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, Washington, D.C. The mailing address for the regional headquarters in the 2 international plazas, Suite 550, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19113. Fax number the 610-521-8225. The email address for the regional administrator for the Region 2, the David Myers at FRA.gov. Region consists of the Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. Mailing address, regional headquarters of Atlanta, Federal Center for the 61 4th Street, Southwest Suite, 16T20, Atlanta, Georgia, 303. Fax number 404-562-3830. Email address for the regional administrator for the Region 3 is Fred Denon of the FRA.gov. Regional 4 consists of the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana. The mailing address, regional headquarters for the 300 West Adams Street, the room room 310, Chicago, Illinois 60606. Fax number the 312-886-9634. The email address for the regional administrator for the region is Lawrence Hasvad of the FRA.gov. Region 5 consists of New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Maryland. Address regional headquarters of the 4100 Internal Plaza Suite, 450, Fort Worth, Texas 76109 4820. With the fax number is 817-284-3804. Email address regional administrator region by the John McGarry, FRA.gov. Alright, Region 6 consists of Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri. The mailing address for the regional headquarters of the 911 Locust Street Suite, 464 in Kansas City, Missouri, 64106. Fax number 816-329-3867. The email address for the regional administrator for the Region 6 of Daryl Taser for the FRA.gov. Region 7 consists of California, Nevada, Utah, Australia, Arizona, Hawaii. The mailing address for the regional headquarters is 801 First Street, Suite 466, Sacramento, California 95814. Fax number 916-498-6546. Email address regional administrator for the Alvin Sedchi, at FRA.gov. Regional 8 consists of Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Oregon, Wyoming, South Dakota, Alaska. Mailing address of the regional headquarters is Murdoch Executive Plaza, 703 Broadway, Suite 650, Vancouver, Washington 98660. Fax number 360-696-7548. Email address for the regional administrator for the Region 8, Dick Claremont, FRA.gov. And that concludes Part 241. United States location requirement of the dispatching United States rail operations.